Snarling wolves dodged and leaped, twisting in the air, jaws snapping. Again and again, Perrin tasted feathers and the foul taste of fluttering ravens, crushed alive, felt the pain of oozing gashes all over his body.
And welcome back to the Reign of Books podcast, episode number 16. Yes, we have surpassed episode number 15 now, and we are on to 16. This is the reader's entry into great narratives where the written page reigns supreme all the time, always. We are still discussing the first part of the Wheel of Time series. We've kind of broken up the book into fourths here now. We're covering it in quarters because the book was just too long. But part two of The Eye of the World. Josh, this has been a great book so far. We're going to discuss what the group is doing, why Matt irritates me. And Josh, today's show is brought to you by Arid Hall's Anti-Fog Wipes. Our specially designed and technologically advanced wipes are made to resist moisture and evil from clinging to your lenses. Don't let your glasses or eye protection get all shamadarred up on your next early morning walk through Shadar Logoth, or a battle, or any other inopportune moment like when your Aes Sedai and warders say, "See ya," in the middle of an ancient evil city. Make sure your vision is clear. Our lens wipes can be used on glasses, as well as camera lenses, like Nikon or Canon, but not Minolta. Keep your head and your eyes clear. As a special note from our network, tune in tonight for our newest soap opera drama, All My Murdral. Tune in on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Josh, we thank Arid Hall's Anti-Fog Wipes for sponsoring our show today. How you doing?
Hey, morning, John. I'm doing great. This book is not just long in a sense of he's drawing it out, but it's long in a good way. You know, in the first part of the book, the characters were chased mercilessly, and they were just hounded by all kinds of creepy creatures. But we are getting to the second part of the book where it gets worse before it gets better. So I'm actually, I think I can officially say I'm a Wheel of Time fan. Not even seeing the conclusion of the first book. I am just loving and eating up every chapter of this and wondering, Robert Jordan's taking this in directions I would have never imagined. But before we continue with our story and figure out what that quote at the beginning of the podcast was, we're not reading The Song of Fire and Ice, better known than the Game of Thrones series, where they have wolves in every part of that book. But yes, Robert Jordan actually he had the market first in wolves, so we'll find out what that's all about. But first, we will get into the news. First news story this week actually, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction debuted at the Cannes Film Festival. That's 20 years ago. This is a book podcast, but in my opinion, John, Pulp Fiction is some of the finest writing I've ever seen. Every scene in that movie I can remember from 20 years ago, just because of the opening sequence to the end and everything thrown in between that I had never seen before in a movie. So as far as just really good writing is concerned, and if you're into crime anthologies, it's adult. It's a very adult film, but it's something that you've never seen before. So I guess leaving impressions on people and having some of the best stories in your life. I can't remember many movies from 20 years ago, but Pulp Fiction certainly rates at the top of my list. And just as a fun small fact, believe it or not, 1994 was a huge year for film because in that year you had Forrest Gump, you had Pulp Fiction, and Shawshank Redemption, my best or favoriteest movie of all time. So I would say that writing was alive and well, or maybe I was just very impressionable and young back in the 90s. Much better than what I consider film to be today. But that is happy anniversary to Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely, and every time I watch that movie and Samuel L. Jackson says, that's a tasty burger, I want a hamburger every time. It's just the way he says it.
Exactly. John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, that movie should have won the Oscar. It got nominated, but it should have won.
Yeah. Hey, next news story about a new program called Adobe Voice. This is coming from thefutureofstorytelling.org. But basically, Adobe is creating a new tool that's going to allow professional-looking stories. It helps with design. So they have a template you can pick, and you can add your story to it, but it'll either pull from photos from your desktop to put as background, or it'll pull from their big gallery of, say, I think it was 25,000 images or icons that they have. And they also have music they can add to it, so it just kind of helps your story come to life. I love this whole concept. I think this is going to go a long way for storytellers, and this is just a short story. But I think it needs to be, I imagine it's good starting off, but I wonder how deep you can go with it, right? I mean, what exactly is it just narrating a story and adding some music behind it? And we've already got audiobooks and things, right? Is this like an audio-visual book? I'm not really sure where they're headed with it. I think it's a great idea, and I'd love to see them go for broke on this. That way it can actually be a heavy-use tool like say, Photoshop is.
You know, where the story mentioned it is focusing, or what market it's trying to capture, is just breaking down barriers and keeping it simplistic. So basically having anyone able to use this concept. So I'm looking at, young people who have an interest in doing this, who can articulate their own ideas, who can sit, even aspiring writers who want to sit here and put down their notes and kind of flesh out their stories. For me personally, I'm much better at actually talking out my ideas. I think a lot of people are. So you can sit here and put your first drafts of a story not in writing, but in your own voice, your own narration, and that could be a method for people to actually advance their own writing aspirations. So they're making this a low barrier to entry, and I think is pretty awesome, just for that simplicity, and for maybe people who are better at writing quote-unquote drafts or creating drafts by talking them out rather than writing. So I think very cool stuff.
Hey, this could also be a great way to present material too, right? I mean, as boring as PowerPoint is, and I'm really taking this from a professional standpoint. PowerPoint's terrible. I hate it. This, if it's efficient enough and I could put something together quick enough, would be a much more interesting way to present something.
You're right. I'm sure people will use this in totally unexpected ways than Adobe anticipates. And the last news story, Amazon curates short reads section on website. Amazon has created a curation section on the website called Short Reads, great stories in one sitting. You can browse the section based on how long you have to read. Ebook singles and the like are divided into various time increments, from 15 minutes all the way up to more than 2 hours. And Amazon is promoting ebook singles as well as fan fiction in its Kindle Worlds. In addition, Day One, Amazon's weekly literary journal, also has prime placement on the page. So, John, basically, Amazon is just packaging its ebook empire in a different way, and it is an ebook empire, and it's kind of funny. They're trying to quantify everything, and so for me, I'm like, why are you trying to quantify? I guess it's good for people who want that service, but it's telling me that this should take you about this amount of time to read. So, in my opinion, sometimes I want to let the story kind of settle in, kind of let my imagination take me places, kind of stop and maybe reflect on something that just happened to a character. So, in my opinion, it's just kind of like, so what? I mean, this is maybe a good service, but it's not. You don't need to quantify everything, and maybe the reading experience is going a bit too far and trying to say you can read it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, kind of like trying to say you can read The Eye of the World in 3 parts. We really had to break it into 4. Sorry, everyone, we had to. There's too much content.
We love it.
We got to do the book justice.
Without a doubt. And that is our segue, John, into the awesome book. I'm going to have like awesome music right here and cut out that part. Dun, dun, dun.
Everyone pause, in your mind, insert awesome music.
Dun, dun,
Now
dun,
stop.
dun. Now stop. Exactly. John, we are in part 2 of The Eye of the World, book 1 of the 14-book series, The Wheel of Time. We started out last week. We got introduced to new characters. We are completely new to this fantasy series. I came in without any preconceived notions, and now I think I'm officially loving this more than Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, which is a pretty big statement because the Song of Fire and Ice Dance, better known as Game of Thrones, and the Lord of the Rings are pretty much considered classics, modern classic and a, you know, an older classic. So basically, Robert Jordan, some people love it, hate it, just like those other books. But a lot of people maybe come in with preconceived notions. I love everything about this, and this second part took the story in directions that actually absolutely floored me. And some of the people who I thought would be the heroes are not the heroes. Everyone has a role to play in this book, and I don't yet know what that role is and where things are going. So up at the front of this section, our characters, are happy, or if not a happy group, at least they're a safe group. So what are your thoughts on this section of the book before we dive into Shigar Lagoth?
Well, I'm right there with you. I think it does exceed Tolkien in a way, right? Because in The Lord of the Rings, it was very, this is good over here and this is evil over here, and there was a pretty clear line between those two things. And now we've got all these major characters, and the lines are blurred, right? Gandalf was known to be good. These Aes Sedai, like Moiraine, you're not real sure what she's up to. You know what I mean? I mean, she's fighting the Dark One, but what are her real motives? And it's not really clear. And it really lets you get into it a little more. It really adds that ambiguity that keeps you guessing and making it a page turner. So, and I could go on and on and on about what other things might make it better, but that's the thing that sticks out to me, is all these characters are very three-dimensional. It's not just I'm good, you're evil. See, I'm right there with you, and they are
right.
a pretty happy group here.
Yeah, three-dimensional, complex world. It was very straightforward. So in the beginning, you kind of, you were acclimated to the world. You said, hey, this is what the world was. Here's what the world is. There's something larger going on. Here's the group of people that you're going to view the world through, and you're going to find out what their part in this larger context is. And it's not like the One Ring where you have to go and the fate of the world isn't in one person's hands. I mean, in this book, the fate of the world could be up into three people's hands. So you're still guessing, who's the hero, and it actually gets more complex. And we'll get there and see what happens to the group. But basically, we left them off where they were safe. So, we got away from the Trollocs. And they were being pursued relentlessly. And things do get worse before they get better, because their safe haven turns out to be Eredhall, which was our sponsor. Thank you to Eredhall. But this ancient city, it's an ancient ruin now known as Shigar Lagoth. It's also known as the place where the shadow waits. And it's a story. The story of that city is no less tragic, in my opinion, than Manetheren, which was the kingdom that Rand and his friends actually descend from. Manetheren was completely wiped off the face of the earth. They were the Dark Ones, fiercest combatants, and they saved mankind for all intents and purposes for a long time from evil taking over the world. But then in a final gambit, Manetheren was destroyed. So Rand didn't know his ancestry, and it's ancient lore. But Eredhall, now Shigar Lagoth, is an actual standing relic of that era, and that city and kingdom was the closest ally to Manetheren. So that's the big concept. It's really fun. It's really like, wow, they're actually in living history. So for me, I just had, I think this is one of the most, not scenic. It's certainly not scenic. It's this debilitated, once big city that's now ruled by shadows, but it's a real place, and it's one of the most memorable places in this world, in my opinion.
But it's something you want to see. I mean, who in a movie like this, a story like this, and I'm picturing this as a movie. When I read some of these things, I can't help it, but wouldn't it be an awesome scene in a movie for them to go through this woods with these massive trees and then suddenly come on this great city that's, it's ruins now, but it's just there in the middle of the woods and no one really knows about it, right? It's not necessarily on the map anymore, and just the size that was described in the book. I mean, this is a huge city. I think it is scenic. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it provides the first real sense of, I guess, unexplored or unknown factor. I mean, this world it's like, everything's interconnected. There's there's roads connecting every part of the world, but this is a forgotten place, and so it's mysterious, and you're wondering why are they safe here, because the Trollocs won't come here. And so we get that short explanation of it being a safe haven. And what do the Two Rivers boys immediately do? Your favorite character, Matt.
It's not the two. Right. It's Matt. Oh, hey, real quick. I couldn't figure out what was the name of this place again. Was it Shadar Moria or was it the Mines of Logoth? I couldn't remember. I'm sorry. I'll figure it out in a minute.
So your favorite character, from whichever book we're talking about, Matt actually it says, we're not going to ask permission to explore this city. Let's go do it. So these guys actually go off and explore the city without even asking permission.
Right after they've been attacked by Trollocs. Sorry, I had to interject. Right after this big battle, they're like, oh, whatever. Let's just go off in this dark place, away from the only people that can protect us. It's all good.
So, you know what? This whole story, I am putting myself in their shoes, but at this point, I'm like, yeah, that was a major dumb move. This was maybe a little bit unbelievable, but maybe not. Who knows? These guys do at some point say we want to be, go off and have adventure, and what better place, right? There could be treasure, which is some.
The old shiny object thing.
Exactly.
Good old Matt.
What ends up happening is they meet. It's a, you know that something's going to happen, and so they do meet Mordoth. Is that his name? Mordoth? Mordor?
No, it was Mordeth. It was M-O. Yeah, it had an E-T-H. Mordeth.
The way you pronounced it just made me realize. Get it? More death.
Exactly.
Uh-oh. No, seriously, come on. Did Robert Jordan do that on purpose, and I just picked up on that? Hello, more death, and run the other way, guys. But they don't. This guy does say, I found treasure. So this whole scene is kind of a little ridiculous, only because they're so gullible to fall for it, but it's Matt leading them, and his friends will not leave him.
But Josh, I still couldn't suspend my disbelief here. I love Robert Jordan. I love this story. I guess there's going to be some flaws, but I could not make myself believe that peer pressure works the opposite direction. One guy peer pressured two guys. Usually it's two guys saying, no, we're going to go back and get land because we may be in over our heads here. We just almost got killed by a bunch of Murdral and Trollocs. And there's Matt. Well, Maureen said it was safe. No, not really. She didn't really say that. I can't stand Matt. But how did that work the opposite way? I could not believe they would do this.
Yeah, Matt put words in her mouth. You're right. And so, but it does. But so we get past that. But the execution is really good because they follow him into a creepy building, down a creepy staircase to a creepy chamber, barely lit by torches. So this whole time you're like,
yeah, we'll stay. We'll keep going. Yeah.
But still, put yourself in their shoes, and it's like, holy cow, what's going to happen? Because this is like they're far away from any help now. And the scene is really interesting. Maybe I was a tiny bit confused as to the limitation of Mordeth's powers. But when they saw the gold in the room, there was treasure. Holy cow, the guy wasn't lying. And this whole pile of treasure mesmerized Matt. And they were talking about, I don't know, getting help the next day. And Mordeth was like, you're not alone. And long story short is when they said they were going to Tar-Valon, the Aes Sedai city. Basically, he said, you lied. You said you're going to Camelon. Camelon was a stop in their journey. And so he flips out and turns into a huge monster. I mean, it's a pretty cool scene because he just morphs and blocks their way, and it's like, holy cow, great job, guys. But something happens where they all dive out of the way, and then Mordeth is huddling in the corner because he lunged at him and he couldn't grab him. So maybe, I don't know.
It feels like some kind of illusion where he made it seem as though he filled up and blocked the whole doorway. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but then it stopped and they saw him huddling in the corner, and then he turned into this stream of smoke and just shot off.
You're dead. You're dead. He's in his tagline. Right. You're all dead.
Right. But in this part of the book, and kind of looking forward a little bit and knowing what's coming, I never really could figure out what Mordeth actually had become. I mean, I know the history. The history was explained, but what was he in that scene? Was he part of the greater evil in the city, or I couldn't figure that out.
He was ensnared. What's the evil's name?
Well, I thought he brought it. I thought he's the one that brought the evil.
No, Mashadar.
Shamadar.
Shamadar or Mashadar?
It's Shamadar.
I'm sure it's Mashadar. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
it's Masha? No, I'm pretty sure it's Shamadar.
You are the lore. You're the keeper of names. So
I hope I didn't say that wrong in the sponsor. That would
so
be terrible. I'm looking here for my note on this right now.
that's okay because we can just say the big evil. And the cool thing is they get away, they escape. But this scene shows you that there's some evil lurking. That there's some rules it has to follow. It's got to they basically get out of there. And they run, and they barely make it back because of the setting sun and the creeping shadows. And so again, you kind of think that was too easy, but then they do make it back to Moraine, who gets out of them what happened, and she explains the rules where Mordeth has to give you a gift, or you have to do him a favor, or he has to touch you. And he did none of the three, which is how they escaped. So that's a good thing, right? Because they were that close. Ending their journey before they began. But then she explains Mashadar, or Shamadar, the great evil. And the big evil is separate from the dark one. I'm not even related. I bring that up because I found it awesome, again, with the complexity of the world. It's not one big evil versus one big good. Everybody's got their own agenda. There's this thing that has this hold on the city, and it's really, even the Trollocs and the Myrddraal are afraid of it. They can't conquer it. And in the history that Moraine says, she says a whole Trolloc army that camped there after it was ruined disappeared. And scrawled on the walls were pleased to the Dark One to save them. So it's cool. Just that whole setup. In the history of the city is Mordeth, who came to the city. And they only have a one-line explanation, John, as to what or who he is. He came and whispered evil into the king's ear. And the king became corrupt. The king and people feared Ered Hall more than they feared Trollocs. It was just a corrupted human city. And it said that fear, that hate bred or birthed something, brought it to life. So it was only one line because I was really interested. As you can tell, I wanted to know what this whole thing was. And Mordeth got ensnared in this evil that was spawned from the city. So it doesn't really explain what this great evil was, except for the fact that even Mordeth got ensnared in it. Everybody died. The king went crazy or whatever. So there was a long history, and great history. But the long short of it is, the city is still possessed, and it's not a safe place. John Keel. We are having technical difficulty. Cue elevator music. Do, 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 do. So basically, we now have the boys are safe back there, but Lan went out looking for him. And this is the first real part where you're like, Lan, what's going to happen to him? Because we know how vicious and crazy this evil is, and so you're wondering, is Lan safe? What are the limits of his powers? So this is the very beginning of the next part of their journey, because now at this point, Lan does come back. You think everything's kosher, everybody got away safe and sound, but Lan comes back, and when he gets there, you're like, whew, everybody's safe. No, Lan was scouting, and the Trollocs are entering the city. Why would they enter the city? So they really can't catch a break. But the Myrddraal are driving them through the city. And again, with the complexity of the story, you're wondering why don't they just stay hidden? Why don't they fight the Trollocs? Because that would be like a big homing beacon for the rest of the army. So all these decisions, everyone's, I guess, what's the word? They're looking at Moraine and saying, that's not a smart decision to just run because there's an evil out there. But they're taking the lesser of the two evils. So they decide to avoid the Trolloc army and leave Shagar Ladoth. And here's where it gets interesting, John. Basically, we think that she's the only one who can protect them. Lan and her are keeping this party together, and everyone is they don't trust her. They want to get away from her. Even Nina Eve, who joined them, is looking for the first chance to split. And then what actually happens in this city at night? The great evil actually takes over. It's safe during the day, which we forgot to mention. That's why they can actually stay in their one little house with the little enchantments around it, which Moraine put around. During the day, they're fine. They'll be able to leave, but they have to leave now in the night. And so when they do leave to escape from the Trollocs they find out how precarious the city is because all these tentacles of mist start crossing over different parts of the city, and if you touch them, it
kills you right away. And you were right; it is Mashadar,
yes,
not Shamadar. So point for Josh. I'll have to fix that. It makes me upset. However, but yeah, the actual Mashadar, the actual evil is it's that weird fog. It's like it has these tendrils and tentacles, is what it said, right? But this part of the book, this was another moment where I said, really? So they're going through the city trying to get out, and some of Mashadar comes between Lan and Moiraine, and they all stop and they look back at the rest of the group and they go, well, we're going to go out of the city now, and you need to find your way out. And they left them, more or less. Now, she told them what to follow. She said, follow this star, blah, blah, blah. But my thought was, you're really just going to leave them to their own devices? I mean, they could either be killed or captured by Trollocs here. Why don't Lan and Moiraine try to find a way to them, but instead they just go, we'll see you outside the city. It was a little weird to me that they just broke the group up that way.
I can see where you're coming from. I saw it at the opposite. I saw it as an extension of a hard decision. First, they had to sit here and decide to leave in the middle of the night because the Trollocs were coming, and they couldn't fight an army of Trollocs if they tried to fight a small band of them, and again, sound the alarm for the rest to come and fall down on them. Right now, they have the element of surprise. So they took the lesser of two evils, which was a hard decision, and now Moiraine, with their years of wisdom and experience and understanding what's at stake, she's got to trust that they can follow simple directions and still, with the element of surprise, get out of the city. So you're right. It was a little quick, but for me, I saw it as a part of the story, which we do find out they become separated, and that's kind of a big coming of age moment where they're alone and they don't have any leadership, and it's a scary thing where everybody could be paralyzed and this could be the end. So it's kind of a fun, heart-pounding moment, and they have to get around the mist, and they eventually do, and they go through the city through twists and turns, and it's, again, like you said earlier, it was a movie for you, and I was like, wow, this is really tense. And they turn the corner and they're stunned, they're frozen because 3 Trollocs are standing right there. So, oops, element of surprise is gone, and they actually run straight to the Trollocs. And Rand was trying to be the leader, or at least sit here and have some semblance of, let's get out of here. And he's like, everybody this way, but everyone scatters. So for me, this was even scary. It's like everything is disintegrating fast. They all spread out in the city with Trollocs chasing after them with their poles, with the tendrils of mist that can kill them as soon as they get touched. So things disintegrate quickly, and I'm like, how is this? What's going to happen? And this isn't just, I guess, a red herring or just something that happens quickly, and it's like, oh, it's all fine in a few seconds. We'll all get back together. No, things continue to deteriorate, and I'm like, wow, the Trollocs are chasing after them, driven by the mirror draw, but but they can only keep pace with the horses for 50 paces or so. So it's like touch and go, touch and go. And Rand has these doubts. This is where it first really creeps in, John, that he can't protect Egwene. And I love how Robert Jordan keeps sprinkling in these doubts for the characters. It makes them so real. They're not the heroes who have steady hands and who have all these skills and can swiftly, fight battles and win. They have to survive. And so this was touching. It was touching because real doubts and real life and danger actually start here and they keep going.
Yeah, and this is the point in the book where Robert Jordan, regardless of whatever plot device he used to get these characters to break up a little bit, this is where you see each one of the characters, except for Matt, of course, start to come into his or her own. They start to develop. Matt just remains an idiot, and the rest of them start to grow and find new abilities and really start to mature and make tough decisions from here on out. Matt just keeps going on about Treasure, of course. I'm not going to let that go. He irritated me so much. However, this was a good moment in the book. 'Cause you're not quite halfway through yet. And these characters do have to grow a little bit, right? Because I couldn't see them getting to the end of the story and still being these farm boys and kids. So
Yeah, and the pace picks up quickly. What happens is Rand actually he meets Matt near the gates of the city, and then they exit. So they're actually, you think, safe because the Trollocs are still going to have to fight, the great evil inside the city with all the mist. You
oh,
think?
it is consuming them too. I mean, there were a lot of screams that were heard.
Yeah, yeah.
That thing was eating them up.
So you think they're, this kind of works to their advantage, but no, the Trollocs are after them in an instant outside the city. Here comes the Gleeman. This is where, he kind of shows that he's a world traveler, storyteller, but yeah, he's got to protect himself. So he can hold his own. He comes galloping behind them, says, "Run, you fools!" And the Trollocs are on them. And I just love the fact during the whole chase scene. So we have these three who've made it out together. The Gleeman does some tactical maneuvers, and he actually, he skewers two of these Trollocs with his best set of knives, and he keeps going, not even stopping to pick them up. He's like, "Those were my best knives." So I love how each character in the ensemble cast gets their own little scenes. It's what makes for a great story. Again, like you said, you love them or hate them, but you at least know who all these characters are, and that was in a new side of the Gleeman. I was like, yeah. So these guys are safe, and you see that they hit the river, which, you can think that this is lucky for them, but no, this is part of the world. As far as they hit the river, that's the, mission accomplished, but no moraine and land, and so the Gleeman is leading them, and they find a boat, which again is, they're lucky, but people do live here, so I'm not going to say.
I didn't find that to be a convenience device. I found that to be absolutely normal, but there were Trollocs everywhere. So, I mean, the fight hadn't stopped just because they made it out of the city. I mean, they were still, the Trollocs had surrounded the whole city. I mean, there were over 1,000 of them, right? Before they made it to Shadar Logoth, they suspected there were a bunch of these things.
And we'll get to that, actually, because this shows a new infestation, or basically evil that hasn't been seen this far south of the borderlands, So they get to the boat, and the Trollocs are right on their tail. They jump over, and it's these ship folks. The boat, the captain. I like the captain. He talks like a pirate, but he has honor, and so the ensemble, the secondary characters come to life. They cut the ropes, and they're off. They basically they escape because the captain and his crew think so fast. And so they go down. I'm not sure if chronologically, I can't remember where Robert Jordan showed you what happens next, but I know these guys make it. But then Perrin again, the characterization of him, he's back in the city. You cut scene back to Perrin. He's eyeballing the gate. So he's a thinker. He waits. He's going to be like a spy and make sure he makes the right decision.
Well, he was very methodical, and he even mentioned how people used to make fun of him because he said he was a slow thinker. I didn't get that impression in the book. I just got the idea he was extremely methodical. He was very afraid of making a mistake, so he really took his time making his decision. Not that he was slow in any way, but they used to make fun of him for not just making these spur-of-the-moment decisions. But he's sitting there eyeballing the gate.
He's directly opposite of Matt, and he runs into Egwene right there. He thinks he's in trouble, but Egwene's right there at the gate with him. So thank goodness, because this is for all intents and purposes for right now Rand's girlfriend, and Perrin and her link up, and they immediately are being chased as well. So these guys ride out of the city, and they ride right over the edge into the river, or Perrin does at least. He's
accidentally in the dark.
It's crazy. These guys cannot catch a break. So he's gonna drown unless he can make it out. He drops the cloak, and he gets out of the river and he crosses, but Egwene disappears. So that kind of was a nail biter, because we do have strong female protagonists in this story, but the Trollocs, what are the Trollocs going to do? We see, and I forgot to mention on the boat, that a Trolloc almost drives a spear through Rand. So you're wondering, wait a minute, are these Trollocs, can they just not follow orders, or what's going on? Because they're not supposed to kill the ones that the Dark One wants, and Rand and Perrin and Matt are who the Dark One wants. So we don't know if the Trollocs will leave Egwene alone, but she's alone again. And so we have those two that were together for a second, and then the next morning we see that Nina Eve made it out, and she falls asleep, and she's the stubborn healer that is trying to get the boys back to Two Rivers, and she sneaks up on Moraine and Lan. And this is where we find out that Lan is concerned because there are thousands of Trollocs, and then they slayed a lot in the night, but they disappeared, even the bodies. So he's concerned that the Trollocs who never take their dead with them, there's no trace of any of them. And so he's wondering how they actually came into past the borderlands without no one knowing this far south. How did they make it this far? So Lan is troubled over that. And Moraine and Nina Eve, Moraine consents her, and they have a confrontation. And this is another interesting character development where Nina Eve and Moraine go at it, and essentially Moraine says, how did you find us originally? She starts to question her. And so basically the leaps in logic I found kind of hard to believe how Nina and Eve originally found them kind of take shape, or they're not leaps in logic anymore. Moraine basically says you channeled the one power in your own crude way. You were one of the women that doesn't sit here and destroy yourself with it. You actually managed it, and you grew up with it, and you didn't even know it was the one power. And Nina Eve is basically having a crisis of identity. And so for me, great moment, because she won't accept the fact. Even after Moraine tells her what her childhood was like, she told her you healed people and then you could sense them. She basically said that's how it happens. And Nina Eve knows you can't fake that. That was her childhood.
Right, yeah, she eventually just kind of, as she remembered things, she kind of comes to terms with it. But I want to talk about her character real quick, because I really like Nina Eve. Okay, I like her character, but she's kind of becoming a Matt to me in that I'm tired of listening to her whine. I'm tired of listening, and it's almost, to me, Robert Jordan's making her two-dimensional because she is nothing but a pain in the neck, and she's in this ridiculous soldiering competition with Lan. Oh, I can track just as good as he can. Well, no one really cares, because that's not really your job, right? It could be your job, but you're not actually a soldier. Why do you need to feel this superiority over Lan? I know why she doesn't like Moraine. However, she's constantly just shooting daggers into Moraine's back with her mind and her looks, right? And after a while, I think to myself, at some point, the character's got to get over that and move on. Now, he's still developing her character, but she's been nothing but a pain in the neck and a whiner the whole way up until this point. After all the amazing things she's seen the Aes Sedai do, she's still constantly in this state of disbelief. Like, of course I know best, and no, you don't know that, and how could you do? She just saw her shoot a wall of flame across an entire valley to stop Trollocs from getting through. It even stopped the Murdral. You still don't have a little bit of faith, or you still don't want to be a little bit more kinder to the person who can save your neck? It's kind of weird to me that she's so whiny.
It goes to show you that I guess everyone has a different reaction to what they see, to these things in this world that are totally foreign and alien to them. So it's a clashing of cultures. So if you look at it as your whole worldview, your whole life, you thought the Aes Sedai were evil, then you're gonna, her shooting a wall of flames is gonna reinforce that. They're in league with the dark one, their dark friends. So you're right. Nina Eve can't get over it. I just think it's a clashing of cultures, though, and basically that's people react differently, and in this world it makes it more real to me. People are you're never going to convince people that the Aes Sedai maybe had the best intentions to save the world, and they know, they really know how to save it better than other people, because it's a whole mythology that's been brought up in this world where the Dragon Reborn was evil. He's the one who broke the world, and so it makes it more real for me that not everybody's on the same page. But I see where you're coming from, and everyone has those doubts about Moraine, and so we have to speed past all the whining that Nina Eve is doing, because Perrin wakes up and he's on the other side, and Egwene is lost, and Perrin, who's becoming my favorite character, by the way, because he does show nimbleness, and he shows level-headedness when he could buckle. He's all alone, he's wet, but he starts doing his maneuvers through the woods, making sure that he's scouting and he's looking ahead, and he finally finds he falls flat on his face, and he finds some hoof tracks, and you're like, oh no, Trollocs, they made it across the river, when they are absolutely petrified of water. And I love it. It's the saving grace for this whole group, when the Trollocs won't even cross the river, and they'll drown essentially. So that's one thing they got to their advantage. But it's not a Trolloc hoof. It's Bella's hoof, because Perrin smiles because he notices the horseshoe from his dad's forge, and I just love that whole kind of little moment right there. And he finds Egwene, and she's stubborn. She's alive. She says, "You know what? You're not the leader of me." So there's this whole chemistry that immediately comes that comes into play. They have to make a decision on what to do. They head toward Camelon, but she's not going to let Matt be the boss of her. So I love the fact that he has self-doubts about himself, his leadership, because she's always questioning him. And they set off on their journey to Camelon. So they're safe for now. And how it plays out with them is they're running out of rations, and they have one horse, and they smell a fire, and Perrin investigates, and who does he meet? He meets the dire wolf. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he meets Elias, and when I heard that name, I just kept thinking of William Dafoe. So if you've seen Platoon, you'll know why. This guy in my brain looks just like William Dafoe with a beard.
And you know what? William Dafoe could pull it off, because
Probably.
We find out Elias, and we'll pronounce it that way. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. I call him Elias. Elias sits here. He asks them for their story, and they start spouting off their fake story, which they've got down pretty pat now. And then he says, somewhere along the line, he doesn't believe them, but then he says, "Oh, watch out! Here come my friends." So you find out that this guy doesn't like people, and he has other friends, and they don't like people. So it's kind of a fun little build-up. And in the middle of their bollocks story, their fake story, he says, "Watch out! Here come my friends. Don't move. Don't make any sudden movements." And his friends are of the natural world. It's not some super craziness. It's actually wolves. And I made that joke about dire wolves because in the Song of Fire and Ice, which we will not spoil. This is just a spoiler cast for the book we're reading, but the dire wolf is the main house symbol for the House of Stark, and main role in that series. So I was like, whoa, Robert Jordan, he basically had wolves before Game of Thrones, which I love, because basically Elias can talk to wolves, and you're like, holy cow, the wolves can read Matt's mind, and he knows they're lying to them. And so you feel a real sense of danger. He's like, I don't want to hear any lies. One of my wolves wants to...
It's Perrin, right? Did you say Matt there? I think it's Perrin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Listen, that can be your Shamadar moment versus Mashadar. So...
but seriously, this thing is dire for them, because Elias could let the wolves have their way with them. Some of the wolves are in disagreement about what to do with Perrin and Egwene. One wants to eat them and be done with them. One wants to defer to Elias and say, we'll help him if you want to help him, but they can't lie. He's like, I want to know your real story. So again, the whole trust issues in the book come into play. And they don't know this guy, but they basically have no other choice, because these wolves are surrounding them. So Perrin tells the whole story, and Elias looks at them, and he talks about, well, I don't like Aes Sedai, but I'm going to help you guys get to Camelon. And so it's kind of like this moment of this guy making a decision for them. Their fate's in his hands. And it's funny because Elias also drops the big reveal that Perrin can speak to the wolves.
Hey, but we need to pause here and talk about that for a minute. So I try not to hold back when we're discussing the book, and this is one of my real criticisms that I had with the story, and outside of me picking on Matt, which, yeah, there could be a character that's just so... I mean, I nicknamed him Treasure Pleasure as I was reading, because... He just couldn't get his mind off Treasure, even though he was being killed almost at every turn.
No joke.
Nynaeve
was being killed.
Right, and the Nynaeve character, I can understand. It's not unbelievable. It's just a little like, okay, got it. You don't like her, and so those are a couple of minor criticisms about characters. But this right here was, to me, just underdeveloped. This whole thing where Matt could not Matt, see, you got me saying it now, where Perrin could speak to wolves, it just came out of nowhere, right? He has nothing to do with this, and then suddenly he comes on Elias, And then suddenly Elias says, "Oh, you can speak to them too." And then suddenly, yes, I can. Oh my goodness, I can hear what he's thinking. And it comes. And I thought, okay, oh, stop. We needed a little bit. It was a bombshell, and it was good in that way. But we needed a little more development here. Maybe he could have thought back and said, "Yeah, I remember when I was a child. Sometimes the wolves would come, and I would kind of know what they wanted me to see over here in the woods, or that's how I found my dad's axe when I lost it that one day, and the wolf had saw it." That would have been a little helpful, but this was too jarring. It was just suddenly it is, and
You know what?
it felt like a snap of a finger.
I guess I have read part of the Song of Fire and Ice series, and so I loved the concept in general. So maybe
Oh, it's an awesome concept. I'm just kind of knocking on the way we moved into it. It was just like hitting a brick wall and bam. Oh, okay.
maybe it was abrupt, but we know that Elias gave enough backstory to where we'll sit here and talk a little bit about the fact that the Aes Sedai tried to track him, because maybe he was an aberration or an abnormality. I'm saying all these big words and I can't even say them right. Basically, they tried to track him and say, hey, you have some connection to the One Power, so we're gonna take you. We still have this unsettling feeling that the Aes Sedai do what they want, and so he fought them. He killed some Wardors, and he left with his wolves. He's had a hard life. He's a loner. So it sets you up to believe that there are people like this in this world. So you're right. Perrin was introduced abruptly to him. It was kind of coincidence. He's a tracker though, so he had tracked them for 2 days. So I was into it, but further down the road, we find out that there's so much self-doubt that Perrin has. He doesn't want to believe he has these powers. He doesn't want Egwene to look at him oddly and be scared of him, that he is a completely different person than she knew growing up. So this may have been abrupt. I didn't see it, but you're right. But at least it's made up for in the fact of how does it play out. It's a very scary change in him. He wants the wolves to go away, and that's why maybe Perrin is my favorite character, because this is a coming of age story where things are happening quickly, and a world that they did not know exists, and now they are thrust right into the middle of it, and he's not going crazy. You know what?
Something I appreciated here was that as he comes into his own and he learns this new truth about himself, he does start to become a much better leader, and he has to, because of the danger that's eventually brought on them, and he starts accepting this ability some, and he begins to be a leader, and he begins to mature a lot more, which is a great start for the story. I mean, this is the first book in a 14-book series, right? So it's good to see these characters growing here right at the beginning. But yeah, I certainly went right along with it. I just had that one little criticism about the way it was introduced, but once he starts going with it, it was the best thing that could have happened to him.
So these guys set off, John, and we're thankful that they at least have somebody powerful. I was thankful they had kind of a defense now, even though they're very torn about hanging out with the wolves and the Wolfman, but at least they're kind of set, and so everybody's kind of set at this point. So we move forward, and on the boat we start to find out the dream sequence. We have to get to the dream sequence where Baal al-Mazan, basically the Dark One, is visiting them in their dreams, all of them still. Matt refuses to talk about it. He's sulking. But Rand, you see through him, he's going through this dream. It's kind of scary because it's one of those dreams where you don't have control. Distances are basically, you can't calculate if the tower is this close or far away. You turn the corner, Baal Mazan is right in your face. So this creepy dream with all the towers with ramps, and they just run into this huge maze, and you're just kind of like, wow, this evil is right there. He can't find you, but he can at least penetrate you and mess with you so much that you could go crazy. Maybe that's why the potential Dragon Reborns go crazy, because Baal Mazan tries to interfere with making that prophecy come about. That was a random thought.
Well, I kind of got the idea that maybe he was able to track them through their dreams, right? He's actually connecting to their minds somehow. Maybe he's kind of keeping track of them that way. Now, there's another thing, another creature that's going to come up in the book later on that we'll discuss, but with another way they're tracked. But I thought maybe there might be more to these dreams than just him trying to get in their heads and figure out who they were.
those powers must be limited. If he can track them, then he certainly can't pinpoint them because his, the Dark Riders and the Trollocs would have captured him by now. But the
Well,
dreams
but they're on their heels the whole time.
right, and they have a sense of where
and
they're
they
at.
hate water, which is why they're not in the water right now. Murdral and Trollocs hate water.
And the dreams, are changing Rand in some way. He doesn't know how or why. We had a hint of him and his brashness and being able to maybe channel power with his sword when he confronted the White Cloaks and Barlan. But he's at the top of the mast on the ship and he slides all the way down. A death-defying stunt like an acrobat that he didn't know how to do. He would have never done that. But the Gleeman, he tells them to keep their cover stories, get it straight, and they port. They finally come to White Bridge. But I mentioned the dream, and I mentioned Rand changing. It's all still very vague, but it's there. That character development is there. Perrin's getting all the action. Matt's sulking. It's worth making note that he actually, when Rand comes sliding down from the mast, that's when Rand sees the dagger he took from Shagar Logoth. So basically, yeah, Matt did actually take a dagger. So could that actually be a cursed dagger where Mordoth or Mordeth does have powers over him? It might amount to nothing, but he's sulking, and maybe that does or doesn't have anything to do with it. But they reach White Bridge, the big plot point, the big town, ancient bridge, indestructible apparently from the Age of Legends, and the Gleeman. And when they hit the dock, the Gleeman is made an offer by the captain to sail with them to Aeilman, one of the grandest cities in the world, and he's tempted. And so this is really interesting. Again, more plot development for the Gleeman, and they go to the nearest inn at White Bridge, and they're trying to figure out information. And the Gleeman is more world savvy than these kids, and so he's trying to talk to the innkeeper. And he finds out that there's been a stranger, some like cuckoo nutcase looking for them, and also a Dark Rider looking for them. And so the Dark Rider's here, but none of the others. But Rand kind of lets the cat out of the bag and says,
he just got impatient.
Got impatient, yeah. And the innkeeper knows right away that they are some of the people that the Dark Rider is looking for. And the Dark Rider, you can't hide anything from him. He's just got this this power over people that freezes them, and he's like an inquisitor that you'll give everything up to. So now the Gleeman knows the game is up, and this is really interesting because the Gleeman has a chance to go to Aeilman, and he basically is helping the boys still. Matt and him have a confrontation. Matt tells the Gleeman to go. They have a stare down. It's just really interesting. Everybody's different agendas, but you find out that the Gleeman had a nephew that was killed by the Aes Sedai. For all intents and purposes, he went crazy. He was one of those that
right,
had
he was
potential
one, he was one
power.
that got used, yeah. Or they tried to help him or develop him, and it didn't work out, yeah.
Exactly. So that whole thing gives you more of a clue of, wait a minute, what's going on? I mean, the Aes Sedai, what do they do? What do they do to these people?
But that also made me question a little bit what were Tom Maryland's real intentions as well. But here's what I'll say about that. I would like to say he's true blue just from what we know of his story, but if he has family that he feels was killed by Aes Sedai trying to do what they do, there may be some ulterior motives with him. However, when I was reading, I felt safe for Rand and Matt knowing that they were with Tom Maryland. His maturity and the way he handles all the situations they've been in so far, I said to myself, I'm really glad they're with him because my main character feels safe right now, and that made me feel safe, right? Because he's a very good caretaker, I guess. But I don't know what his real intentions are.
Well, those intentions are never found out, and that safety kind of quickly evaporates.
We don't know.
Here's
Oh, hey, before we jump into that,
no,
I don't want to glaze over the character of Gelb. Gelb, the dog that got kicked all over the boat. You remember him? He's not a dog, but it started off with Rand leaping onto the boat and kicking him square in the face. So he's mad about that. Then he gets blamed for falling asleep on watch, which is why they didn't know the Trollocs were out there. And then he gets picked on the whole way down the river. And then he gets cast off the boat by the boat captain when they get there. He's like, "Get off my boat. I don't care where you go, but you're not sailing with me anymore." And then they see Gelb in the tavern they're in, and he's telling this story about these three. And my point is, we spent all this time on Gelb. Was it just the comic relief, or is his character going to become of importance later on?
You mentioned dark friends. Maybe he becomes a dark friend. He's accusing them of being dark friends, but maybe he, if the world turns upside down, he's one of those weak-minded folks who would immediately jump to the dark side and say, "Oh,
I'm just curious
me, I'll
to
help
see him
you."
again.
So you wanted to talk about Gelb. Gelb might be gone now, but
maybe.
But Tom Maryland, he sneaks out. They have to sneak out because of Gelb in that inn, and you're right. And we find out that he's gonna take them to Camelin, and he's sticking with them. He's not making the decision to go downriver. It's like, yeah, Tom, you're the man. So really, really good. Kind of like Tom's in the driver's seat, like you said. He's the caretaker. But when he comes back and they're about to depart Whitebridge across the square, staring straight at them, 100 feet across, is the Dark Rider. So right then and there, they have no protection, no safety, and everyone, I don't know, yeah. Basically, at this point, it's a cat and mouse game, and they're frozen again. This evil thing freezes them in their paces, and they have to tear their eyes away. And Tom, basically, as this thing marches toward them, Tom looks at them and he says, "Run. Run," and he tells them about an inn in Camelin if he can make it.
The Queen's blessing.
The Queen's blessing. Make it there. But
and
this
take
is
my pack.
Say what? Say what?
And take my pack. Right? He gave him his pack, and basically what I think happened here is that Tom Maryland was tired of carrying his own things, and so this conveniently will allow him to walk by himself to the Queen's blessing, and he doesn't have to listen to Matt anymore the whole time. And Rand will carry his pack for him. And this is really good for Tom Maryland. Am I wrong?
Wishful thinking. I like your thinking, but it's wishful. Because this moment is not filled with levity, even though that would have been nice to think. It's very serious, and this is the end for Tom because you see it coming. Robert Jordan writes it that way. He tells them to run, and he pushes them off because they're both like statues caught in the Dark Rider's gaze. And he pushes them off. And I love the writing because in a bound of like 20, it was 20 paces, but Tom Maryland does a quick bound in 3 leaps, and it even surprises the Dark Rider, and he flashes his second best set of knives. And there's this flash of lightning when he attacks the Marjorie. And frankly, if he survives, I want to hear how he did it. And I want to hear how much of a world traveler this guy really is. But for all intents and purposes, he says run, and he screams, and this flash of lightning basically lights up the entire square, and people go running. And for all intents and purposes, that's the end of Tom. And for me, I was shocked. I was like, okay, yeah. They split up, and now they're in their own little groups. But now they actually face this evil that tracked them down, and one of them dies. And for me, did not expect that, and I was absolutely floored because of everything that Tom and the decisions he had just made to maybe save himself, and he was very selfless. So, despite what his ultimate motive was, he was selfless to the end, and it happened so fast. My jaw just dropped to the floor.
I'm right there with you. And when I was growing up and I'd watch these movies, these kinds of movies with my family, my dad was always fond of saying, "Why didn't he just pull out a machine gun and shoot the Murdral?" But unfortunately that didn't happen. And now Rand and Matt are on their own, and I don't feel safe anymore.
No kidding. It's really a story that there's stakes because you're constantly reminded of that. Speaking of which, we do find out Lan, Moraine, and Nina Eve walk across the White Bridge, and you're hoping that there's some.
They're gonna meet up.
Yeah, that they this is before the battle. That there's a time it's out of sequence. You're hoping for some kind of safety. Maybe Lan actually helped Tom. That was what I was hoping for. Lan came to the rescue, but no, they see the aftermath, and White Bridge is burned. But we go back to the Wolfman, Elias, and his wolves. And this is a great part of the story, and this is kind of where we wrap up. But it's a long wrap up here. We won't glaze over the fact that they're going across country, and they meet the Tinkers, which the Tinkers are funny people. They're wandering people like gypsies. They are like these crazy, a kaleidoscope of gypsies with crazy colors and singing and music. Elias doesn't want to necessarily hang out with them, but he knows them. But this is an important plot, not just for the fact that it's kind of, shows you more of the world, but the Tinkerers are traveling people. And tell me if I get this right, but when they're hanging out with them, and this is, we have to jump, we're jumping from group to group, but just imagine we're in this nice, comfortable caravan, singing, having dancing, and good food, so it's great for them. These guys are actually living the life. But the leader of the Tinkerers, the Seeker, tells Elias a story about the Borderland Warriors. The Borderland Warriors, they're not scavengers, and they're not plunderers, but they're certainly a fierce tribe that don't allow anybody in their land. I think they're called the Aiel. I can't remember if that's the name of them.
Yeah, I think that was it.
But he tells a story about Aiel. The Seeker had another friend in the Tinkers, another caravan, and they met the last dying woman, because their women are warriors as well. It's great, and the breadth of this story, you find out, this is a cool place, or this is a harsh land up at the north where they have to fight Trollocs to come over the mountain.
They had gone into the Blight, right? They were in the Blight purposely to seek and kill Trollocs.
That's right, and they came back with their trophies, but the Trollocs sought them, slaughtered them. There was a battle. The last remaining survivor then, after you get all this cool story, she went up to the Seeker, and she didn't want to touch him or talk to him because
and she was dying too, right?
Yeah, she was. But there was such a warrior race that these traveling people and anyone else is below them. But she had to deliver a message, which, tell me if I'm remembering this correctly, because this is kind of foreshadowing. It's an important aside in the story.
Yeah, this was a great. Well, I want to talk about this one too after you.
Good.
Tell us, Josh. Tell us.
I'm a little unclear on what this is about. I'm like, basically the woman says the Dark One is coming. The Dark One plans to destroy the Wheel of Time.
Plans to blind the eye of the world. Hold on, I had this written down. I paused to do this.
You look that up, and I'll say that, again, an analogy, blind the eye of the world, and I think the analogy, Elis mentioned, this might not be it, and this doesn't help our conversation, but it's like it doesn't make sense because you can't destroy time. That's the end of all existence.
Well, yes, that's what he said. She told them that he planned to blind the eye of the world and he was going to destroy time. Now, in some of the dream sequences, he told Rand in one of them that when time is destroyed, nothing can hold him anymore. This is speaking of Shaitan or the Dark One, Aeilman, whatever.
All these names.
Right, exactly. Nothing can hold him, and so you get the idea that the eye of the world is the eye of a serpent, and I drew a conclusion on that too because they had mentioned a serpent, and also in another dream sequence, Aeilman told Rand, "I'll strangle you with the corpse of the serpent." So all this is kind of coming together for me now, and the fact that the Tinker, after he told the story, looks at Perrin and Elias and Egwene, and he says, "I don't know why she decided to tell us that story, but she had to." And the really cool thing about this was I didn't look at this as like a convenient plot device. This was destiny. This was real destiny. That warrior picked them and told them because the story had to get to Perrin and Egwene, and it may need to get to Rand and Moiraine and Lan at some point. However, it was destiny that Perrin and Egwene be separated in Shadar Logoth, and they end up with Elias, and then they finally get to hear this story, and now we know what the Dark One's really up to. And that was so cool when I connected all those dots together. That was a really cool moment for me.
I feel like I'm beside a campfire. You got me drawn in. I'm like, oh, you're right. I equated the serpent to the dragon, which could be totally wrong. So it's kind of like he's trying to stop the dragon from being reborn, kill the serpent, kill anybody who comes after it. This whole wheel of time keeps going and going. Ages come and go. So yeah, it is incredible how you get this insight, and it's not totally ambiguous. You can kind of sit here and see where things are going, and you can't wait to see how they save the world. This can't be a big downer where the Dark One wins. I mean, that's we can't let that happen. So they hear the story, and they are traveling with our favorite Tinkerers, and it's a fun time for them. But Elias gets this bad feeling.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but as you were in your narrative mode, can we talk real quick about the violence argument they had
Oh,
before
the way of the lead.
Elias gets his bad feeling?
Well, they're just a bunch of hippies, man. No,
They
the
they
tool. Yeah.
are they are, but Elias exactly. Peace and love, not war. That's exactly what they were. But there was something that Elias said to Perrin out of that whole argument, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but basically the gist of it was, we will do everything we can to include dying ourselves, not to do violence to someone else. And the point was that I may chop a tree with an axe and do violence against the tree. However, harm is still done to the axe because the blade is chipped and dulled eventually, right? So I'm reading all that, and I'm going, yeah, blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't really do that. I read it. And Perrin was struggling. He was, you know what? I'm about to get ahead of myself. I'm not going to say this yet. We need to go ahead with the narrative. Elias's bad feeling. I had to set the scene, though.
Okay,
The violence argument. And you know where I'm headed.
I don't know. No, I'm interested.
Oh, okay.
But
I almost goofed up here.
That's okay, man. It's not as complex as some other fantasy or sci-fi we've read, but it's that good. There's a lot going on. And these characters are that real. It's like, what do? Elias says we have to leave, but just like Moraine, he doesn't give them any clues. So these kids, they're young. You kind of feel like maybe they're being herded along and they don't know what's going on, but you got to let the people with more experience take charge, in my opinion, because Elias has shown his good faith, and they're running across the countryside. They're running, and the cool thing is that you set the whole scene where Elias is covering up their campfires, digging pits, covering them up, covering up the fire after the fact for the fire pits. So it's really cool because he doesn't really have a trace of where they've been, and they're running south, and he's keeping up a really fast pace. And he's crawling over hills. They're weaving in between the actual hilltops. They're going through the saddles, and it's like, holy cow, this is taking forever. And one day, Perrin says, I want to go up with you and scout. And they're scouting, and as far as you can see, there's nothing. And so this whole time, Elias is on edge, and Perrin should trust his judgment because
he's hearing bits and pieces of the wolf's thoughts at this point too. We're really fleshing out his wolf master ability here, right? As he's
which is scaring him.
And
yeah.
He's not really 100% in with it yet. So until he really opens his mind to it, he's only going to hear bits and pieces of their thoughts. But he's catching this now, so you're seeing that develop as well.
But he basically questions Elias's judgment because he's on the hill. He's like, Elias has been. There's nothing here, man. He's about to get up, and all these ravens, a mass of about 100, come flying out of this grove of trees, which he thought were perfectly safe, and they were obviously masked, and they go flying south, and he's sweating bullets. And this is the first in a series of basically more than any danger they've been in before. This whole sequence and this day or this whole afternoon of running from the ravens was
legitimately scary.
Legitimately great because it showed you, again, these people either have to man up and woman up or they will die. And I love how even Elias taunts them. He taunts them to keep going. And the descriptions of the wooden legs and the leaden feet, and basically Egwene even throwing up, just the whole physical exhaustion. But the thing is, Elias tells the wolves to stop scouting north and to come back because the reason is they're not just trying to stay behind ravens who are traveling ahead of them. Ravens are behind them. And the cool thing, I read at the beginning of the podcast, when the wolves actually get attacked, these ravens ravaged all the wildlife around them. You see all the corpses of the foxes and the rabbits, and they can literally destroy any living thing. It's a barren landscape. I mean, there's no cover. And the wolves, they're attacked. You kind of feel this buildup, and then the wolves survive, but they are maimed very badly.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, and you do see the edge of, good destiny here. Perrin and Egwene, who heard this great story from the Tinkerers, and you're like, these guys have a mission, and where they head to is a safe spot. And it's, again, another part of the world. It's like, wow, things come at you, but not too fast, and so this safe, enchanted spot looks no different from anything else. But when you think they're about to just fall over dead eventually, they make it to this safe spot, which was supposed to be a great city in another age of King Arthur
Archer.
Wing.
Oh,
And
yeah, it was Arthur Hawkwing, but
yes.
and I may have projected what I wanted to see here, but this appeared to be part of the story of the Arthurian legend, right? Because it was Arthur Pendrag, which to me means Pendragon, and then eventually he became known as Arthur Hawkwing. So I don't know if this is something totally new Robert Jordan has come up with and just used similar names, or if this is really supposed to be some kind of bleed over from an Arthurian legend. But there actually is a statue there. Hey, I have another question for you. I don't think anyone actually verified it in the story, but those ravens, was that not basically the Dark One being able to reach out into the world?
Yeah, as another one of
he
his
could see
minions.
through the ravens, and he could kill with the ravens. And I felt like they were in more danger at that point in the book than even in Shadar Logoth, right? That all felt like adventure. The battle with the Trollocs, it all felt like adventure and, sword fighting. But when those ravens came on the scene, that was one of those where I thought, you can't run from them. You can't hide from them. They'll peck you to death, and there's no outmaneuvering them. They're overhead. They have the advantage, and they can see for miles. It was legitimately more scary than seeing them go through the stuff with the Trollocs.
No, I took for granted that, they are the Dark One's minions. I mean, I didn't say that explicitly, but you're right. You described it perfectly. It was the most heart-stopping part of the book, because even Elias didn't know what was coming, and he was afraid, and he strained to talk to his wolves who were far away and told them.
Hurt. Yeah, really sad part.
It was. It gets, and it still gets worse after this. So they're camping out, and you think they're safe in this enchanted, what's it called?
It's a steading.
The steading, which makes the Ogier, or the Ogier, which are people or things that did live there. So, kind of just a little bit of mythology. But it cannot keep out men, even the worst of men. It can keep out the Dark One's minions. So they're not out of danger yet, because quickly when you hear that there are people coming, or the wolves say that something's coming, Elias, and this thing is not expounded upon, so it's this huge mystery overhanging us, but it's men, and they don't smell right. They smell evil, and and at this point Perrin can see in the dark. He's coming into his wolf abilities, and they go and hide. Elias goes to basically do some strategic attacks in the dark.
Some assassin mode.
He goes into assassin mode with the wolves, and this is a sad part, because they're basically doing the quick attacks, and they're maiming and they're killing some of these men who came into the enchanted place, which I forgot the name of already.
The steading.
The steading, and Perrin gets caught. Him and Egwene get caught, but they're not willing to give up, because Hopper, and they describe these wolves who have personalities, and we never even talked about that, but they all have personalities and names, and so you actually do feel for them, and we should have maybe built that up, because Hopper comes to rescue Perrin. He's always wanted to fly. That's why they call him Hopper. And he jumps and he kills one of the White Cloaks, which is who has come into this place.
The Children of the Light, my faves.
And the name of the chapter is Children of the Shadow, and they smell wrong. Even Perrin can start to smell them and says something's not right.
Yeah, he said it was like smelling a rabid animal. There was something really wrong.
And we have to find out that's solved, because he gets whacked in the head, and he can't figure it out, but there's just something that he's trying to puzzle out in his head. So Hopper tries to save him, and Hopper actually dies, and so that was horrible. That
was horrible too. You've really connected with these animals, and then to hear it get lanced, into the ground, pretty much is very. It's just terrible. Yeah, you really feel terrible.
And Perrin actually goes into animal mode, and actually tries to attack,
which was his undoing here.
He gets knocked out, and but the way that the actual narrative is actually played out is interesting, because I don't know what happened after that, and the reader doesn't know what happened after that. But they wake up, and they're Egwene and Perrin are tied down, and they're tied down by Lord Bornhold.
Bornhold, yeah.
Is he the one they met in Barillon?
No, I think this might be his father, because this guy was much older. The one they met in Barillon seemed a lot younger. He didn't seem much older than Rand. So there's got to be some family connection there, which the book hasn't verified yet. This is all speculation.
I was wondering about that,
Bornhold.
and basically he's the leader, and he's questioning them. He's very nice, but he's chiding them, and he's questioning them. He's actually interrogating them, and their fake story that they've tried to hold with, again, it's like Elias said, "Don't lie to me." When they met Elias, basically they know that this guy, you can't fool this guy. And I thought it was funny the way he picked apart their story.
Yeah, we need to talk about this in detail. This guy was smart, and he was very trusting. And when I was reading his words, I said, and they mentioned he was like a grandfather, right? He kind of felt like a grandfather. He was it's like you wanted to go ahead and tell him your story, but if he caught you in a lie, he could tear you apart faster than you could think of something else to say. It was really cool to watch this guy go to work, and what a cool character. And he may only be in the book for a little bit, but I got to say Robert Jordan built a great character here.
He did, you're right, and you see who the Children of Light are, and you called them zealots last time we talked about them. When we first met them,
they're extremists.
They are extremists and zealots
and
of the worst kind.
I hate them. I do not like, and I wanted to talk about this too. These guys, I connected to the distaste that you're supposed to have for this group in a very personal way, okay? Because extremists will stop at nothing. You either do exactly what we want, or we're going to kill you in a very horrible way. And in this case, torture, ripping you apart little by little. They did some terrible things, and they threatened about those things. And as Bornhold was questioning them, things came up about Myrddraal, and we've heard about people that can talk to wolves, and you're dark ones, and Perrin says, we're not dark ones, they hate Myrddraal, they hate Trollocs, and then he says, oh really, a farm boy that knows about Myrddraal and Trollocs, you must be a dark one. And everything that, and this is where I really hated them the most, is everything that they accused Perrin of being familiar with, like the name of the dark one, or the Trollocs, the Myrddraal, and they knew the same things. So Perrin is guilty for his knowledge. He is a dark one because he has knowledge, but it's okay if you're children of the light, because you also have the same knowledge. So it's okay for them. It is not okay for you, because we have said it is not okay for you. They are extremists. They're zealots. These guys,
they're on a witch hunt.
They're on a witch hunt. These guys can't be defeated fast enough for me. I do not like these folks.
You said it touched you in a very personal way. Yeah, I saw everything you saw, and it concerned me that in this world that, again, a culture could have allowed these zealots to rise up and to, I guess, basically, go on witch hunts anytime they want to, and to basically dictate where do they live. Because one interesting connection I have yet to make, or I did make, was the fact that the dragon reborn, the false dragon, was captured by the Aes Sedai, and that was one piece of information that the Gleeman and Matt and Rand learned in Whitebridge.
Oh yeah, did that surprise you? Because I thought the Aes Sedai were siding with the dragon reborn. Well, I couldn't tell. They had mentioned that maybe some of them had gone to
renegade. No, he was fighting a war, and the Aes Sedai went to stop him because he wasn't.
Okay, so I must have misunderstood.
That's okay. He wasn't the chosen one, so no, they're there to stop him because he's misusing the power. He's basically going and raining blood and death in the world. So they capture them. And the thing is they're in Camelin, right? And so the White Cloaks are trying to get to Camelin, and they don't like each other at all. The Aes Sedai are viewed as dark friends by a lot of people, including the White Cloaks. But we see how I guess kind of Nazi-like. I'll say that the White Cloaks.
Oh yeah, they're terrible.
And basically, we find out that Perrin and Egwene are in really bad shape. Elias is gone. The wolves are gone. He can't feel them at all anymore. So the thing is they don't have much choice. They don't have any kind of wiggle room because they're basically going to be handed over to the Inquisitors and put on trial. So, but we find out that Perrin did kill 2 White Cloaks, and Egwene might have a chance. But the Lord Captain Bornhold says, no, you have no chance, Perrin. You're going to the galley or to the jibs or whatever you called it. They're going to put him to death. And you're like, holy cow. So this is where we concluded the reading, and it shows you that everything turns on the the edge of a knife. People are met. People sit here and come and help them, and then immediately they have to figure out what's next. So everyone is still trying to figure out if they're going to make it or not make it. So a lot of fun. The last part with the white cloaks makes me think that, you know what, there's more factions in this world than we thought. I don't think there's going to be this giant alliance of folks with the Aes Sedai or the white cloaks. Even if the Dark One shows up himself, I don't think they're going to say, all right, let's shake hands and fight this guy. I think it's going to get really interesting, and only, you know, the prophesized dragon is going to save these guys. That's to me the obvious solution. But Robert Jordan is the writer. I am just the reader and having a ton of fun with it. John, you got any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I do. Any criticisms, excuse me, that I have about the story, understand there are going to be some for anyone listening, and I know. And I'm bothering to say this because they're very staunch fans of the Robert Jordan series. So criticisms are fine. Bring your own to the comments. However, this is an excellent story. This is one of the best I've ever read in the fantasy genre. It's going to be very hard. I mean, short of, you know, the father of this stuff being probably Tolkien, right? You're going to be hard pressed to find anything better than this right here, I think. So this is outstanding. We had to break this into quarters. I mentioned that at the very beginning of the show. We try to do it in thirds, but for a book this size with this much content, we've got to do it justice. So read through chapter 40 next time. That's what we're going to read through. That'll be for the next discussion, chapters 31 through 40, and then for the fourth part, 41 through 53. And that's where we're headed. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you do get in the comments and make discussions on this. There's so much to talk about.
Go Aes Sedai. All right, John. Have a good weekend, man.
All right, take it easy.
And check us out on the reignofbookspodcast.com. Dun 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 dun.